For a long time, I've wanted to try and consolidate my 3D workflow into just Blender. I model my meshes in Blender, rig my characters, and animate them. But the only thing I could never get was making textures. For a while, I tried using external programs for that. Armory Paint at one point, since it was free, Quixel Mixer as well, and eventually I landed on 3D Coat Textura. Despite being paid, it was at least a single-time purchase, and it seemed purpose-built for my needs. To which end, it did the job very well, and in a previous video I praised it, and I still do. But having to switch in and out of 3DC was a pain, and it did not like my FBX meshes having collision primitives on them. Plus, years later, I'd discover my license was not, in fact, lifetime. It was for updates up to a year or something. So eventually I'd update and it would switch me into trial mode, and that just sort of soured the soup a little, which led me to trying something I'd written off a while back, Ucupaint. Ucupaint is a free extension to Blender, and would come to be the backbone of Altfire's art style. Let's take a look at the features, and how it informed the look of textures, props, weapons, and characters in my game. So to start, let's establish what this thing is. Ucupaint is a free extension to Blender that you can get right from within the app itself that enables much more logical layer-based texturing than what the default Blender texture painting would normally. To get it, by the way, just go to Preferences, Extensions, look it up, and install. It's that simple. Then, in the texture painting workspace, it's in the sidebar menus like any other add-on or extension. From here, you can add layers that can be painted on, or add solids, ambient occlusion masks, curvature, and more. You can also control the blending of the layer, like mix, multiply, add, and difference. If you've ever used Substance Painter, 3D Coat, or even Photoshop or Procreate, this works the same way. You can paint on the 3D viewport, so you can paint straight on the mesh itself, which saves having to worry about lining up seams. Or you can paint on the 2D viewport on the left as well, which is especially useful for tiling textures. While all the meshes in the game up till this point were textured in 3D Coat, it was a very simple process that is easily translated to Ucupaint. Basically, just a soft round brush with blending. And what results is a pleasant hand-painted look matching my intentions for the game's art style. The issue was, as I got Scythe online for Level Geo, a level design tool I talked about in an earlier video, I realized how much it relied on textures. And up to this point, I really hadn't made any textures outside of some basic masks. Originally, I'd wanted to keep it simple and make all the textures packed images where I can separate the R, G, and B values and color them with a material in engine so they'd be more versatile. But then they started to lose character, especially compared to the 2 texture solution I had for meshes. A diffuse texture, which is largely neutral and can be tinted, followed by an RGB channel texture, which is the paint or color masks, which can be colored in engine as well. Even as I tried to make that work, the textures in the environment just seemed to stand in contrast to the weapons, props, and characters in the game, and I didn't like it. Feedback I got from friends and other devs was largely glowing for the textures I'd hand-painted, and mid to non-existent for the rest, which unfortunately tells me something important.
Fine. I'll do it myself.
The process I ended up with does still start with Affinity, where the base texture maps are created using either shapes from scratch, or starting from one of the amazing 3D texture images. But once I have this ambient occlusion mask or so, it moves into Blender. This is where Ucupaint comes in. That 2D viewport ended up being an absolute goat. Set that sucker to tiling and bam, you have a super easy way to make tiling seamless textures that is completely free and easy to use. Plus for me, now I'm making textures in Ucupaint for the level geo, so it matches the props and other objects in the game much better. So I import the AO image from Affinity and start adding color layers, base tones, paint masks, and emissives, if required. The results are much better in my opinion, and align with the look of the game and feel more cohesive. Win on all fronts. Except one. My time. Yeah, this is not a fast process. Hand painting, generic tiling, and patterning walls is testing, to say the least. But one finding I did get from my time making this map using the old textures is a reminder of just how far a few textures can go with clever lighting and orientation. So in reality, I had previously pumped out 40 textures I didn't like and only used 15 of them. Now, I painstakingly make 20 textures, which I like a lot more, and have crafty ways to use them thanks to the new fast texturing tool, which is in-engine UVing that's quick and efficient. Sometimes I guess you can't weasel your way out of hard work. Some kinds of art just require the effort. But at least in this, the effort is rewarded. Actually, what you've been seeing in the background here is a new map for the game, the first production style one, where I've really driven to the end of the pipeline. It's a multiplayer style arena, a demake, if you will, of one of my Unreal Tournament 4 maps, Artemis. Now, obviously compared to that map, it lacks detail, but that's kind of the point. It matches the look of Altfire in a way that is sustainable for me over the duration of this game's development. Now, with the ability to make textures under my belt, a powerful and free texture painting tool, and a very long list of textures to make, I can be set forth on this task knowing what it'll take to complete. I do hope you give Ucupaint a try if you're in the market for texture painting solutions. It's free and super powerful, if a little janky at times. Just make sure to back up your files often if you're a frequent undoer. If you enjoyed this peek behind the curtain, please give the video a like and subscribe if you want to stick around and see more progress on Altfire and the neat tools I use to make it. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, take care.